Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we are going to be looking at using a Stabilo oil pencil in our artwork to create a focal image. So I'm starting off with this stencil which is from Claire Stead, and I'll put her details in the description box below. It's a really simple face stencils, but there are lots of face stencils around that you could do exactly the same process with. This is quite simple lines for a face. Sometimes they can be really not complicated but a lot more lines in it, but this one's quite a simple one. So if you're doing it for the first time, probably go for a more simple face. I'm not very good at drawing hair, so she's got a bit of a bucket head, but that's okay. And I have filled in her eyes. So I've drawn this all out with Stabilo oil pencil, and if you haven't come across it before, it's a magic pencil. Basically, you can see why just then. It's a very waxy, soft pencil. It goes on with a smoky black color, but as soon as you add water to it, you get this really intense black line, which blends out to a beautiful shadow. So it is really, really simple with very little effort to be able to put in shading onto your page just by having those straight lines in the background and then blending them in a little bit. And I'm just using clear water, nothing else. And depending on how much you blend it in or out, how dark the area is you're working in, you can get a really cool effect. Now, one of the things you do need to remember with this pencil is it is a water reactive pencil, so if I put anything water based over the top, like gel medium or something, it's going to smudge. So it is a final layer product. You can see there, while the while the background is still wet, I was able to draw back in and put a little bit more detail in the hair. When you draw the Stabilo oil pencil onto wet paper, you get that really delicious black inky line straight away. Or you can dry it off, draw it on dry, and then use your wet brush over the top as well. So it's quite versatile. Because it is so waxy, you can also smudge it with your finger, or if you heat up your page and then put it on, it really sort of melts like butter onto the background. So lots and lots of ways to use it. So because I've got my focal image, I now want to create a background for it. And because I've done this black and white, I really want to have a fun, funky background. So I'm going in with some magenta, and then I'm going in with some yellow paint in the background. Now I've deliberately drawn the yellow over the magenta because I wanted to rub away the excess. So you can see that happening here. So I'll get the magenta peeking through. I have lined up my stencil again so that I can repeat that pattern off the page, and you get this beautiful pattern effect in the background. To do this, you really need to make sure that your bottom layer is completely dry. When acrylic paint is dry, it is permanent. So you won't be, if the bottom layer is wet and then you put the top layer over wet, you're going to blend the colors together, and it's not going to give you the effect you want. So you do need to make sure the layer below is completely dry before you put the paint over the next layer. Once I've done that, I'm going in with some some of my acrylic paints, and adding in marks and dots and lines and all sorts of fun things. So I love these colors. There's no rhyme or reason for me using what I'm doing, except that I like them being really bright. And you can see I'm almost creating another page on the opposite side with my leftover paints. I hate wasting paint, so if I can use it up in some way, I will. So using some new thicker brushes, I'm creating these little striped patterns overlapping where I've done before. And I'm not precious about the marks I make on my page. You know, yes, I've done stenciling, yes, I've put those blue marks in the background, but I'm more than happy to go over the top of them. To get a little bit more detail on the page, I'm just using my paint pens as well. So I love combining my acrylic paints and my paint pens. They'll all go over the top of each other really, really well because obviously they're both acrylic paints. I just find I've got a little bit more control when they're in paint pen form. So I'm not very good at making dots otherwise, but if I can use the tip of my pen, it all works out for me in the end. I'm not necessarily being too worried about where I'm putting my patterning because I know I've got a fairly big image going up over the back. But you know, where I'm coming into the middle, I'm not too concerned about. It's more the edges I'm really am not worried about, but trying to put something in the edges of my page. I'm also making sure that when I'm stenciling or doing my mark making, I'm taking it to the edge of the page and grounding it, or making it touch an edge, which is really important as well, because if you've got stuff floating in the middle, so for example those blue dots, if I didn't have them touching both edges, it would look a little bit out of place. Now I'm just going in with some mark making stamps. These stamps are from Funky Fossil Designs, designed by the amazing Claire Stead as well, and I'm just having fun playing with those. One of the things I love about the craft journal is it's great for stamping in, so because the paper is so smooth, you can stamp directly on it. When I've got my image ready, I am going to glue it onto my page. I'm just trying to work out where it's going to go and cutting off any excess that I don't need. Because I've drawn with my Stabilo oil pencil, I'm making sure that I'm just putting glue on the back. So usually I would use gel medium to glue this sort of stuff down, but if I did that over the top of this image, it would smudge. So just be aware, if you are using the Stabilo oil pencil, you do need to make sure that you don't put it over the top of it, otherwise it's going to move. Then I'm just stamping on a quote for this page, and it says, "Keep looking where the light pours in." Once I stamped it, I didn't do a very good job inking this up, so I'm just going over with my black pen to fill in the gaps. And then I will put a bit of an outline around the outside just to make it pop on the page a little bit and add some of that colour. Even though I've got this bright background and the monochromatic foreground, I wanted to add a little bit of colour onto my person. So I'm actually, for a change, using a pink pen to do my drop shadow or highlighting, depending on what you think it is. And that just very, very subtly ties the image into the background and brings it all together, or sandwiches, I suppose, the person in between the two chunks of colour on the page. Once I've done that, have a bit of a final look and see what I want to add, and I decided I wanted to put a little bit of that pink back in the background. Because most of that magenta has been covered up, I wanted to have that little pop of pink on the background as well, just to tie it together. And also going in with a little bit of white never hurts. So just really sort of simple little bits and pieces here and there over the arrows, just to help it all tie together. And more because I was having fun, but you can sort of see those little highlights, how it makes a difference on the final piece. It looks sort of, why you're doing it from in the distance in the video, but up close you can sort of see how the details help bring it together. So I hope you have fun playing around with the Stabilo oil pencil and having fun doing mark making in the background, trying a monochromatic image with a bright colour background and changing it up a little bit. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.